Hey, JeMs. Yeah, we got Embassy here, the new up and coming map in the Insurgency competitive scene. So pretty excited to do this workshop, JeMs. It's been talked about a lot, doing an Embassy workshop, and now we're actually going to do it. So kind of get, people on the same page on this map, so it can be a little bit more competitive. To be short, I think Embassy is a lot like Market in the way it's laid out. And on Market, you have a lot of lanes. It's more than 5 lanes, and you're not able to cover every lane as often as possible, right? So on Market, it's very similar because you can kind of push a point like A or C if no one's on it, right? So it's really just up to the teams if they feel like they need a player to, be on the point to defend it, such as Alpha, this position, and if that player, just like Market, needs to rotate back to support his team or rotate out for a flank. Teams can hold flanks through different ways. So a lot of times, security, they can get flanked from this upper portion as well as the tunnel. And if a guy, plays more back here in this area, or even, maybe even starts out here, then he can kind of check the timing that the players would come here, and be ready to counter that flank.
So you touched on checking timings. What do you mean by that?
Checking timings is basically what time the enemy would arrive at that point, right? So a lot of people don't know this, but the fastest way out of Insurgent spawn is actually to run down the underground tunnel to C. If you're going to C, not to B or A. And pretty much players that flank C, which is a really common flank, will either go upper or they'll go lower. And typically, it takes a while for this player to end up all the way here through either route. So typically about 35 seconds into the round, if a player is flanking full speed on any of these, parts, they'll kind of show up in this general area. So if you're playing, here, for instance, obviously they could flank a little bit later, but it already takes them a ton of time to flank anyway. So, it's just good to go back and check it at the time that they would arrive. You don't necessarily need to be holding your flank on Embassy in the first, 30, 40 seconds of the game. That should be about trying to get B picks and B control. But, most of the Embassy flanks are very large and big, kind of like the A skinny, C skinny Market flanks, and they take a long time to complete. So, you see a lot of players on Market, they'll sit on construction and do the cross pick, and then they'll check for the A and C skinny flanks at the appropriate timings. Even though they may not know the exact timing, they played enough just to know that that's when people usually show up there, right?
Awesome, right? So, say you're playing Embassy in a pug, and you guys want to win. So, what would be like a good default setup, as an example for both security and insurgent side on this map? What do you think?
I think it's really important to get a good, good pre-nades out. So I usually have a player that kind of plays up here on Shrine, and he can, kind of move. He can throw a nade there, and then, move to this spot. And this allows him to kind of compete with this trees player, right? And also see into Bravo to make sure that their side does not cross B earlier. He can also read this area, read the main stairs, since Insurgent side is limited because their cubby timing is a little bit slower than the security cubby. And they can usually only use C ramp or the stairs or the windows to jump out. And then this guy can also rotate down to blue cubby to really help B in, in the event that a B player dies or he feels like he needs to rotate to add extra pressure to Bravo. So I'd start off with a player there. You definitely need a player who, maybe does this pick here on the window, or just kind of comes out early to this to, try to look for players that jump out of these windows, since Insurgent side can't use red cubby faster than blue cubby. A lot of times if they're not using C ramp, they'll just jump out of the windows, and it's a really good easy pick here. So typically, you you can kind of move these players around, but they can definitely play in this general area of control. This player could even go down here, kind of play in this area. So you want kind of like 2 guys over here controlling everything.
It's kind of like Security Shrine is kind of like Kebab on Market, and Cubby is like lower Kebab or Connector or something. It's kind of a similar power position, sort of home base, where you get control of that for free, and you can do a lot with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And their trees is like Africa.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. You know, it's a support position, and then you have a front rotate and a back rotate. The back rotate's a lot safer, but it does funnel out into the point. So if people are watching that part, you know, they can kind of section you off. So C, personally, I played C side on this map for a long time, and usually I would run out of spawn this way. And when you cross this, you got to be really careful at this window, because Insurgent can actually read you, right? So they can peek here, and they can see if you're going there or kill you. And even if they see you, it's pretty bad, because you know they'll be able to tell their guy that obviously they won't know who's in the tunnel, but they'll be able to tell him, okay, there's one high for sure, right? Which means high C, and then down there is low C. So we kind of use that call on our team to determine information about C, right? And usually I would just kind of get right here. And right here, it kind of depends on the options of timing. You could pre-aim this if you think they're going to be here, or you can try to slide into this window and get here. It's a bit risky to try to run out onto trees this way, because you're visible to the window. And if you go main, you might get naded. So, you know, at times it's good to just jump through this window here instead. But then, you know, you can get seen by the C guy. But most of the time, people that watch this aren't actually watching here. They're watching here. So usually that's pretty safe. And then you can get out onto here, you know, and you basically have a, you know, angle on trying. You can throw a nade or trees. You can throw a nade at trees, and you can just support B. Look to kill their B player. They can't really do anything to you if you're here. It's a very strong position, because it's very difficult for Insurgent to actually get control of that window. So you can pretty much just sit up here and do anything you want. And then, you know, obviously the C players will have to come out and kill you. So that's probably 3 players right there. You can stick 2 players on C if you want to. Usually just 1 is pretty good, and then 2 people playing around B is good. You really want 2 people on B on Embassy, I think, because if you lose the first player and they get multiple people on B, it's very hard to gain control of it. And if the other team has B control and has defensive point control, you're going to lose the game, because they're going to have 2 points at the end of the timer. So the last 2 players, maybe play B in some form or fashion, which means main stairs, possibly blue cubby with maybe 1 prone here watching C ramp, and then the other one, running out to the Humvee onto the point, or to here to this truck. This truck is really strong, and you can play angles on these truck wheels here. You can see this on this side, and on the other side, you can also hop on the truck. And this is a really good way to pick people who come out of blue cubby and try to get onto B. Switch to Insurgency side now. All right, so Insurgency side has a disadvantage in this point. Getting onto B, they can't get onto B as easier. They have C ramp and they have the jump, and red cubby's a little bit late. But you can right peek out of red cubby, and this is something to remember. So, the main thing here is you need to use your informational advantages on Insurgent side, right? Security side stacks a lot of players in this part of the map, but they can't see the opening door of Insurgent side. However, when you're on Insurgent side, you can see, as we have discussed before, this opening door. So it's good to start 1 player around this part and kind of get an idea if they have a guy upper C or lower C, and then this guy, can obviously communicate that with a C player who hopefully is flanking C. So on Insurgent side, you really should be seeing if that guy's upper, and if he's not upper and he's lower, you can kind of bypass him and try to get map control over here, right? Because Insurgent, it's very hard to get out here on these windows to control this like security can, because players play in this crescent area. So you kind of want to counteract that by reading the cross and trying to get a player into, you know, their trees to control this half of the map. And this takes a little bit of pressure off of you because you have more control and more flanking power over B, but you also have a player on the opposite side of your protected point. So you can kind of use this to make sure if they go to C that it has to be a long flank. If they have 2C, there's probably a hole in another part of the map. So this is usually a good start, you know, having one player push through here with this player who helps him. And then once this player does that, he can come out and play on to trees. This is kind of a support position, kind of like apartments in district or, you know, Africa in market. So you want to basically just read the windows. You know, this guy, if the C guy needs help, he can play the C window. If C gets blocked, you know, he can rotate to this window to see if the guy's cross C or not, because you can obviously see in the midpoint of C, right? So if I'm here and I'm playing C and I get on the point to cap and I try to run out in the middle, that guy can pick me, right? Or he can at least have information that he knows I'm on the C point. So then you can rotate a player behind to block the point and render their cap useless. So these two players usually work pretty well in combination. If a team just sends the guy straight up the tunnel to C, you might need a defensive C player, and then obviously you probably need, you know, 2 B players and an A player. So typically default setup is going to be this guy, the trees guy, 2 guys on B and 1 guy on A. The 2 guys on B can jump out the window. You can play main a little bit later, or he can play cubby. Obviously cubby is going to be a little bit later than the blue cubby just because it takes longer to get to, and this red cubby player can hold the flank well. So, you know, holding a solid angle, like say, you know, this is good just to make sure they don't flank through B. And then obviously, you know, you want that other player probably playing C ramp or something like that. Maybe taking the truck angle, you know, maybe takes a nade, throws it over to blue cubby to try to kill their player. You can jump onto B from the truck, but this is very risky. It's open to the windows. So, you know, maybe this player runs C ramp just to stay safe and then kind of sits here and goes prone. And if he's prone in this position and this other player is here, while this player has a little bit of a weaker timing, he can definitely help cover that player in the sense of covering the flank and make sure that player only has to watch that opening part. And then you probably want you want these 2 players on this side of the map working together. You want the 2 B players always working together. And then this guy over here is kind of the solo, you know, joker ace. Maybe you move someone over here to work with this guy some. And he can do a lot of different things. He can kind of read crescent and try to get a pick. He can come over here and read the wide flank. And then maybe, you know, if he wants to rotate down to cubby, he can jump on this thing and then get off. And then, you know, then he runs to red cubby after that. So definitely can mix it up. This guy can push long. So usually, you know, embassy, you just want your 2 B players working together. And then you usually want a player trying to work with another player to push across or get some control of kind of the side area. And then you kind of want a, you know, one-off player on the other point, just so you know you can have an opportunity to take the red point if you ever come to the conclusion that the enemy is not playing there.
As far as overall objective control, do you think this map, is it viable to play for the red point and ignore B, or do you think this is more a B-heavy map, or do you think both strategies are really viable?
I think both strategies are viable. The red point strat's a little underused in Insurgency right now, and it's mostly because teams are a little bit aggressive after they get the 2 points. You know, into a pug or something like that, it's not going to work. But if you're playing on a competitive team and you want to send 2 people A to defend it and send 3 people to C, you know, you could definitely do that if you don't think they're playing C, because, you know, it really just depends. I mean, you kind of want to mind game the enemy team into having to play a player on C or A. So I think the strategies, while they're separate, kind of go hand in hand in each other. You know, you need to use both of them to make sure they both work effectively. If you just try to control B all the time, then you might get shut down by like a massive flank, you know what I mean, that comes through your point. Because, for instance, if you want to play really slow, you know, and you don't really think they have A, you don't really have to even get on A to do damage. You can just flank, run up the stairs, and then, you know, you're behind the whole entire enemy team, and you come out here and they have no idea how you got there and they're dead, you know. So it's really just about guessing what the team's doing, you know, trying to remember where all 5 players are on the enemy team. And yeah, it's pretty much it, you know. Then you just kind of use the A and C strat if they're not playing there, and, you know, maybe even just one person to bait the point, or, you know, something like that.
Awesome. Great tips, Wooly. I think we'll leave it at that for now. That's plenty for people to chew on this amazing map. A lot more people playing pugs on this map, starting to get the hang of it, I'm seeing. So I've been having a lot of fun on it. I mean, I love all the other maps. I'm not going to say they're getting stale, but it's really fun to just see people clicking with this map now, and I've definitely been learning it too from just playing it more. So thank you for the tips. Yeah, if there's anything you want to plug or promote, or how people can follow you.
My Twitch is Woolly TV. I'm probably going to be streaming a little bit of Insurgency this season and then the tournament. I also play PUBG, and I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't have a lot of time to work with it, so I usually just try to help JeMs out. But yeah, check out my Twitch channel. It's just Woolly TV. It was a pleasure doing this with you, JeMs. I think it's going to be really cool to see people play Embassy and, you know, gain confidence on it and start playing it the right way. So.
And if you're interested in playing competitive Insurgency and you're not already involved, check out the gym Discord for pickup games. And if you want to play with a team, or you already have a team, or you want to join a team and play team play, which in my opinion is the only way to play, you should check out the DGL. DGL starting back up soon, so make a team. I think we're going to have a Swiss system, so you'll be playing teams at similar skill level to you all season. It's going to be a lot of fun, so check it out. Thanks for watching.